Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Good morning. While others join, let's begin. Maybe with prayers and then we'll move forward. Checking. Omagyanatimbranthasya Gyananjanasalakaya Chakshurmeritam Gyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajeevam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmade Bhakti Vedanta Swamniti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desakarine Panchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhansute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So do let me know if you see the screen, and if you'd like to, someone would like to read from verse 51 to end of the chapter.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I can do this.
Go on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My dear king, one Brahmana who was an old friend of King Puranjana came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. The Brahmana inquired as follows: Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that. Sorry, You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. The Brahmana continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world. My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa lake. Although you have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. In that city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stories, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is the lord of the house. My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment, and the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are called chief ingredients: fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses. The 5 stories are the 5 working sensory organs. They transact through business. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge. My dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material, Prabhuji, I think is called little fast, Prabhuji. Yeah, my dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your material consumptions, you are placed in various miserable conditions. Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man. Malaya, Malaya Dvaja, your well-wishing husband. Nor you were the actual husband of Puranjani. You were simply captivated in this body of 9 gates. Sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a neutral oinage. This is all because of the body which is created by the illusionary energy. This illusory energy is my potency, and actually both of us, you and I, are spiritual identities. Now just just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position. My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one within one with himself and not different, whereas others actually see two bodies. So, in our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and the living entity. In this way, both swans live together in the heart. When one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. My dear King Prachina Bharati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the causes of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Puranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. How was it? I think you are following the sessions, right? Past sessions.
Yes, I think last 2 sessions I was in India, Prabhuji. So I think,
Yeah.
but I will read this, off time, Prabhuji. So,
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritcham Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudhirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhaktina Ishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So, we are discussing a very nice story here. And why is mentioned at the end of the chapter. But before that, yeah, let's try to go through the verses that Satish Babu just read as part of this chapter, where we are talking about that Puranjan who was attracted to his dear wife, and then because of that attachment, because of thinking about her and her family, because of that, in the next life he became uh, a female, got a female body. But because of his Sukriti, he became not just an ordinary, but became princess of King Vidarbha. So she is Vidarbhi, and she got married to Malaya Dhwaja. Yeah. And all this is, as we know, is allegorical story that Narad Muni is telling to King Prachina Parishad, who is king absorbed in his yeah uh, great successful um, uh, life, material life, and engaged in animal killing, animal sacrifices, that he can atone his sins and everything. And Narad Muni, out of his compassion, comes and yeah, opens up this allegorical story to reveal some important message. And this important message is what we can see from the last verse of this chapter. But before that, last week we were last time, I think last week we didn't catch up, but we were discussing about the instructions for Vidarbhi. What happened is that this Malay Dhwaja is not an ordinary king who has actually won Vidarbhi. So Purunjani, the princess Malay Dhwaja, has in fact shown his greatness and then got hand of her, and then he begot wonderful children. Yeah, in um, and who are they? King Malayadwaja, we know that he is the best among the devotees, Bhagavatas, and obviously because the seed is very, very potent, so obviously the children will be very potent, and the children, one daughter is Asitekshana, who receives the glance of Krishna. He is one daughter, and then sons. There are seven sons, and you remember we were discussing who are they representing Shravanam Kirtanam, so that one can practice sadhana bhakti through these seven processes. What are they? Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam Vandanam, um, Dasyam. So, Sakhyam and Atmani Vedanam are the ways of devotion in Raga Bhakti, a spontaneous love for Krishna when that awakens. So, yeah, and after that, they gave up yeah, the material interests, and they went to the forest. Uh, with Vaidarbi, she also went with her husband, retired in the forest. She was serving her dear husband, so that the husband is absorbed in meditation and the process of self-realization. And yeah. So all these things are very wonderful, that we see. I think, I don't know, Adiras Prabhu, I'm not sure whether we covered these in detail. I think I've left that maybe from verse number 42 to 50 purports. I don't know if I went into detail, but yeah, one may refer to those. They are also very, very important, very nice. Then we come to what happened after that. We come to after the instructions, where we see that this mm, mm, Vaidarbi was lamenting because she realized that her husband attained perfection. In that process, he left the body. When she was massaging his feet, she felt, oh, the body's not warm, but getting cold. And then she laments, and that because while she was serving her husband, she was absorbed. The only focus was to please him. And it is said, I think in one of the purport, Prabhupada mentions, if the husband is pleased, yeah, then the wife is also getting the result. The only thing is, the husband, if he is going in incorrect path, if the husband himself is not right, then what will the wife get is also same. Now, as we may know, we may have heard that the wife gets half of the piety that husband does. This is obvious, isn't it? This is obvious because it is said that Prabhupada is writing in one of the purport that if the wife is a devoted wife, that she is serving her husband, then what is happening is that she is obviously also becoming devotional. Yeah. So what is happening? Because we know I think there is a saying that if someone lives together for 6 months, then the other person will imbibe the qualities of the person, and um in this case, when a husband is a devoted husband, not to wife, but devoted to the Lord, then what is happening? Because he is a great devotee, like here we are talking about Malayadvaja, Bhagavat, then what is happening? The wife is also absorbed in how to serve him. But actually, by what does we mean? What do we mean by serving? Husband is actually serving the Lord, because the husband is serving the Lord. So it's indirectly the wife is serving the Lord. So through that process, that's why it is said that she's also obviously alike or similar to her husband. Only thing is that she is engaged in the process of serving the Lord through her husband, and through that she can attain perfection. Yeah, and going further, then yeah. So then what happened? Just as a devoted wife becomes afflicted at the passing away of a husband, when a spiritual master passes away, the disciple becomes similarly bereaved. And what happens when such thing happens? Hmm. When such thing happens, she then prepared a blazing fire with firewood, and she cannot bear separation, and she wanted to jump into the funeral pyre that she has arranged for her husband. And Prabhupada writes, I think in this, yeah, in 50th verse, he writes that, yeah, this is not cruel injunction or a process. Yeah, Saha Maranam. This is called not only Saha Gaman, Saha Maran. In India, the system was prevalent even to the date of British occupation. Of course, British came and saw that this is inhuman. How can someone? Because there was also people were I think people took it as an advantage of this Sahamaran, so that one need not take the responsibility of the person. Yeah. So just imagine if the guy who is maintaining his wife, if he is not there, who is going to maintain? So it's a burden. So, and there is also injunction. So let's use that for relieving the burden, relieving the responsibility, and that it became kind of forceful act, and this is of course inhuman. But we can see from the early history of India, we find that when Pandu Maharaj, he died, then Madri, she joined him in this Sahamaran process. And there are so many examples, and Prabhupada refers even in 1936, there we saw a devoted wife voluntarily entering into the fire for her husband. This indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master rather than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. So one may think that, oh, what is this life if I don't fulfill my spiritual master instructions? If I'm not able to satisfy him, if I'm not able to fulfill his dream of what he wanted to establish, if a disciple is not doing that, he feels like, oh, it's better to die. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal consideration. Dying also means, dying also doesn't mean that physically leaving, but also giving up all other things and refocus and really focus only on one thing, that life and soul of my life is to follow the instructions of my spiritual master. So then what happened? Then what happened? So um, then Narad Muni is telling, O king, then one Brahmin who was an old friend of King Puranjan came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. So the appearance of an old friend in the form of Brahman is very significant. Who is this old Brahman? Who is this old? If you really see, he didn't say old friend of um, Puranjani. He didn't say he is a friend of her husband. Rather, he said he is friend of King Puranjan, just to help us understand that we are not talking about a friend who is of this life but previous life when King Puranjan was there. What does it mean? That is the appearance of old friend in the form of Brahman is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. So we are not talking about only a friend from the previous life. We are actually talking that the Lord is eternally friend of us who have been residing aside to us as Paramatma, not only in this life but in all our previous lives. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. Uh, According to Shruti mantra, Dva, Suparna, Sayuja, Sakhaya, the Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Suhrat, the best friend. So this old man who is best friend is not just from this life, but he is there from previous lives. He is been always there. Actually, in one of the purport, it comes later that this Paramatma is existing even before the material creation existed. So, which means even before we got this body, before uh, Paramatma is already there. The Lord is always eager to have living entity come home back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially. But whenever there is an opportunity, Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment and instead turn his face toward the Supreme Lord. So we can see that the Lord doesn't force himself that yes, I know what you're doing is nonsense, is only creating all kinds of disturbances for you. Rather, I know what you should do. Come. No, he's not doing. He's just witnessing very patiently to know when there is a chance that the person is interested. He's turning towards him, to the Lord, then he's facilitating. Yeah, as explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in instruction of spiritual master. So, spiritual master, so Lord is arranging Paramatma, who is Chaitya Guru in the heart, he is seeing, he is witnessing when the time is uh, um, optimal, so that this person can now appreciate to go back home, to go back his own home, to join his own father, eternal father, who is eagerly waiting. This is technically called what's that? When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. So what happens then? The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can see here that who is Vidarbhi? Sorry, Vaidarbhi, she is a daughter of Vidarbha king. And who is her husband? Is a Bhagavat. And it's also referred here that Malayadhvaja is also none other than the spiritual master, because a husband, a devoted husband, automatically becomes spiritual master of his wife. So the wife has a spiritual master because she was very, very carefully serving her husband, a devoted husband. That's why what happened now, because of that service, because of following the instructions of her husband or her spiritual master, she could now have the darshan of that old friend. Who is that old friend? Paramatma. So the Paramatma appeared. When did he appear? After one follows the spiritual master instruction and serve him alike, Supreme Lord. Prabhupada writes that Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Because the question may come. The question is, the Supreme Lord is Paramatma appeared before the queen as Brahman, but why didn't he appear in the form of as Sri Krishna? Huh? If at all a disciple is serving the spiritual master, uh, we see here the manifestation. The Lord is manifesting as Paramatma. Why not the Supreme Lord as Sri Krishna himself? Because unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Person of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other, he is in association with the Supreme Person of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. So this is what is very, very important revelation, mainly from this particular part of the chapter, is that without without the spiritual master, without serving Vani Seva, and of course, Prabhupada writes that when the spiritual master is physically present, then one renders Vapu Seva. Vapu is the body. So to attend the physical needs of the body, one cannot simply say, okay, um, after all, we are all Shrotavya, we are all interested in hearing to the spiritual master. By hearing, we are serving him. Uh, Through the process of hearing, we are serving, so that, yeah, definitely, so that we are able to hear to his instructions. But what comes is actually applying them, those instructions, and serve the spiritual master. uh, then the question comes about Vapu Seva. Is it very important? Is Vapu Seva very important? Yeah. If we attend to the needs of the spiritual master, physical needs, then he can fully focus so that he can enlighten many, many fallen beings who can be brought on track. Yeah. What can be Vapu Seva? Can be to take care of his food, to take care of his shelter, uh, to arrange his preaching activities. If he is a Parivajagacharya who is constantly traveling all around the world to support that mission of traveling. Uh, so, yeah, so one may think, oh, I understand. Yeah, it's about, and what about the other services like supporting his book distribution mission, or establishing a community or a society. So many ways these are there. So, and as the spiritual master is eager to supervise such services, one can take a share of such service, so that by serving him, one can give comfort to the spiritual master. So in that way, one can render Vapu Seva. And when the physical body of spiritual master is not available, yeah, so one can render service in the form of Vani Seva, means to take up his instructions as life and soul and render them. Then what happens is one can start seeing the presence of Paramatma. The Lord reveals as within, from within. And nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other, he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. So what happens in the Vani Seva? We may think that, oh, now Lord spiritual master has given all the instructions, but I'm not able to connect to him because he's not available on phone, on email. I can't visit where he is now. So how can how can a guru reciprocate once he leaves the world, material world? It is that the Lord, one who is strictly following the instructions of the spiritual master, he is connected through Chaitya Guru again, the Supreme Lord in the form of Paramatma. So Prabhupada refers here importantly this. And what is now? How do we think? How do we know that am I doing something correct or not? Uh, how? How? When we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, what is happening is that we are proving our sincerity to the Lord, to the Guru, that I am really serious in this business. I really take instructions very seriously to me. So then what happens? Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So what is he saying? To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So the Lord is seeing our sincerity, our interest to serve the spiritual master, irrespective of our own challenges. Then He is giving us the intelligence. So it's amazing, right? So it's always a question: am I right? Am I doing properly? Yeah. If we stick to the principles properly, then, yeah, we, with the support of the spiritual master, with the blessings of him, what is happening? Krishna is appreciating, and then he is giving what we, uh, um, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So, yeah, so that's how we can stick to this process and get success. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. We know this, right? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appreciated uh, Abhay Charan, who was a grahastha at that time. He saw, so uh, when he was speaking, uh, he was not, though it was in the holy dham, he was not like, um, he was not too much into, oh, I am here, I want to go and visit that, I want to have a holy day. No, he took every word of his spiritual master, so that this is such a great opportunity to relish and then apply that, make it as his life and soul, and establish this wonderful society of Krishna consciousness all over the world. So, people may think, oh, but what about other things? What about liberation? What about other things? Bilva Mangal Thakur is saying, if I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. Huh? Uh, Otherwise, what we are thinking, oh, let me perceive the Krishna in that temple, in this temple, in that guru, in this guru. Yeah, there Krishna's, maybe the face is not painted as I wanted. Maybe he is peacock, feather is missing. So many things. Our vision, our eyes can only see all these things materially. We are not able to see Krishna really there. But when we hear and apply the instructions that we get and live a life on that basis, then Krishna from within, he is revealing everything. And then he is saying it becomes very easy. Bilva Mangal Thakur is saying, I think that liberation stands by my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of dharma, artha, kama, moksha stand by her. What only liberation? Everything is anyway there. This is in the Krishna Karnamrita 107. If one is very highly advanced in devotional service, he will have no difficulty in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one engages in the service of the spiritual master, he not only sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but attains liberation. Yeah, if at all one really wants. Huh? As far as material conveniences are concerned, they automatically come, just as the maid servant of queen follow the queen wherever she goes. Yeah. So the Brahman inquired as follows. He's asking this Puranjani or Vaidarbhi. He's asking, who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. Give me 1 second. I have to close the door now. Okay. So these are the questions asked by the Paramatma. Or actually, now these are questions. Yeah, if you can see a person from our heart, he comes out, and if he's asking these questions, actually, these are the questions we should actually have ourselves. Atata Brahma Jigyasa means we should already have. Uh, who are you is actually who am I? Hmm? Yeah, whose wife or daughter are you? Means like whose wife and daughter, or yeah, so and so am I? Hmm? Who is the person? So all these things are kind of actually questions that Paramatma, or here in this case Brahman, is helping out for us to think. You remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. Yeah, in the past we have consulted many times, right? We always have a problem, we have consulted the Lord. Yeah, so we have consulted. It's not like, okay, we are not going inside our heart and we are just asking, hey, uh, help me. No, actually we are going to a temple, or we are going offering our prayers to whomever we are thinking as the Lord, and we have consulted many times. When a person's relative dies, renunciation is automatically visible. Huh? Here, in the case of Vaidarbhi, she is lamenting so much that she is ready to give up to do this Maran. Yeah. But what happens? Why is this happening? Because it is said, yeah, even if we see in the life of Srila Prabhupada, when his mother she passed away, then it was so painful for Abhay Charan, that he was thinking, oh, what is this life? He was lamenting demise of his mother so much, and he thinks that I don't need anything, there is nothing, etc. This is called Shmashana Vairagya, and this Vairagya comes that, hey, I don't need anything. This is also, we see this in the case when Lord Ram kills Vali, and then when Vali is dying, then or after death also, both Tara and Sugriv, they both think, hey, there is no purpose of living anymore. Both were thinking, let me commit suicide. Uh, why? Because at that moment, mind becomes blank. We don't think anything, we can't think anything, we don't see something beyond this stage, because one is so much thinking as all life and soul. Hmm? Um, when a person's relative dies, renunciation is automatically visible. Renunciation, oh, uh, consultation with the super soul seated within the heart is possible only when one is completely free from contamination of material attachment. So that is the reason why Paramatma is coming and asking the questions. The Paramatma is always the Chaitya Guru, the supreme, the spiritual master within, and he comes before one externally as the instructor and initiator, spiritual master. The Lord can reside within the heart, and he can also come out before a person and give him instructions. Thus, the spiritual master is not different from the super soul sitting within heart. Within the heart is there. An uncontaminated soul or living entity can get a chance to meet the Paramatma face to face. The super soul immediately appears, provided the devotee is pure in heart. How can he be pure? By following the instructions of the spiritual master. This is the duty of the pure devotee. What is it? To see the bona fide spiritual master and consult with the super soul within the heart. So this is what. When the Brahmin asked the woman who the man lying on the floor was, she answered that he was her spiritual master, and that she was perplexed about what to do in this absence. At such a time, the super soul immediately appears, provided the devotee is purified in heart by following the direction of the spiritual master. So, this is very important. This is very important. It is that after seeing our genuine repentance, that I messed up my life, I really were thinking I can solve problems of my life myself. I am the master, so I don't want to bow down to anyone else. I am not a servant, I am an enjoyer, and all these things, when we understand, are nothing. These are uh, not the correct understanding of life. when we approach a spiritual master, when he instructs us. Because when we think that, oh, I think what I have been thinking is not correct, I messed up my life, so rather I should really look for a guide who can really help me to get out of this fuss that is there, I have created or it's already created. Then the Chaitya Guru inside the heart, he is manifesting himself externally in form of a person who is none other than spiritual master. And what happens when one takes him very seriously and really want to follow his instructions, he is helped. After the spiritual master leaves, what is happening? Such a devotee is always helped directly or indirectly by the spiritual master and the super soul. Thus, a sincere devotee is always helped. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. If a devotee serves his spiritual master sincerely, Krishna automatically becomes pleased. Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasada. By satisfying the spiritual master, one automatically satisfies Krishna. Thus, the devotee becomes enriched by both the spiritual master and Krishna. The super soul is eternally the friend of living entity and always remains with him. The super soul has always been ready to help the living entity, even before the creation of this material world. It is therefore stated here, Yena agre vicha chartha. The word agre means before the creation. Thus, the super soul has been accompanying the living entity since before the creation. So the Brahman continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you have a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world. Ah, the Paramatma is reminding what did we do? What did we? Uh, mm, you were my friend. We were friends together. But what happened? Because you have you wanted to enjoy yourself. You want to be the enjoyer. What happened? You gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world. Very important point here is we all want to be enjoyers. That happens only in the material world. And we know what is the cost of it. We know the price of being enjoyers. A position as enjoyer, we think is very apt and appropriate for me. But actually, you should understand what is the consequence of being an enjoyer. That's why it's very important to always remember that we don't want to be the enjoyers. As long as we think that I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be the enjoyer, when we are in this mode of thinking, I want to be the enjoyer, we always have to be in the material realms. Why? Because here it says, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world. When we want to be enjoyer of this material world, then Lord will grant. For him, he can just he can provide that provision because he is our dear friend. He can do that. And he said, this is explained how the living entity falls down into this material world. How? What is the reason? Krishna speaks in 7th chapter. Ichha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. All living entities are born into delusion, overcome by dualities of desire and hate. So one things that I would like to uh, enjoy, that desire, it causes him. This is an explanation of how living entity falls down into this material world. In the spiritual world, there is no duality, nor there is hate. The Supreme Personality Godhead expands himself into many. In order to enjoy bliss more and more, the Supreme Lord expands himself in different forms. And in what forms? We know that there is Vishnu Tattva forms, Vishnu Tattva expansions are there, the Swamsa expansions. But then he also expands in Vibhinna Amsha, Vibhinna, many marginal Amsha expansions. And these Vibhinna Amshas are none other than we. When the living entity desires to enjoy themselves, they develop a consciousness of duality and come to hate the service of the Lord. So it is, uh, the question is coming, okay, if one is in the spiritual world, uh, if one is in the spiritual world, we are saying, I mean, maybe I am speculating here. I need to also cross check. But when we are saying we are Satchit Ananda, we are qualitatively the same as Lord, but not quantitatively. I think this is the difference that makes us to also think that I want to be enjoyer. Yeah. If we would have had complete knowledge, complete understanding, complete consciousness, like the Lord would have had, like the Lord has, right? If we would have had like that, then yeah, we wouldn't fall down. Because the same question may come. If I have independence, Lord also has independence. If Lord has independence, why didn't he choose to become a human? Because some people may come up with this philosophy that Ram is in fact a human, right? Of course, he is Lord, but he appeared as human means he became human. No, the Lord, in spite of taking a human form of life, he is completely transcendental, full of consciousness. But that consciousness is not like our, which is qualitatively same, but not quantitatively. Lord is Vibhu, unlimited opulences. We are Anu. Though the opulence are there, they are very, very insignificant, infinitesimal, sorry, not infinite. So this definitely is the difference. Though qualitatively we are same in the spiritual world, but because we have the consciousness, as I said, yeah, I'm again repeating, this is how I see, because always we have this question, why did we come in the first place from the spiritual world? When we search it Anand, when we are all knowledgeful, yeah, the knowledge is not as magnanimous as the Supreme Lord. If it would have been that, we would have been Lord, and because we were already getting so much, we would have also exercised what is it called, all these six qualities or opulences of the Lord, which are um, richest, strongest, most enunciant, most beautiful, uh, most wisdom, yeah, knowledgeful. No, we are very, very minute in that. So due to which, though in spite we are Sachit Anand in the spiritual world, yeah, our understanding would be that I am the servant of the Lord. But then when one would like to become enjoyer, want to take a position of enjoyer, yeah, why not? Because there is free will. There is also this free will, uh, and because of that free will, that is possible that one comes. Then what happens? He develops a consciousness of duality. So the desire is possible. He can desire it. There is no question. And to justify that, I was just giving reference that we are not supremely intelligent. We are not supremely conscious, or like the Lord, that we don't make a mistake. We can have this sense of desire, which can mm, uh, on which a rapper can come up with a duality and come to hate the service of the Lord, can go, and this becomes that in this way the living entity falls into the material world. In the Prema Vivarta, it is said, Krishna Bahirmukha Hana Bhoga Vancha Kare Nikatastha Maya Tare Japatiye Dhare. The natural position of living entity is to serve the Lord in a transcendental loving attitude. When the living entity wants to become Krishna himself or imitate Krishna, he falls down into the material world. So, when this is said, then this is in fact possible. How it is possible, we could see in these lines, just I was thinking, but need not be. Yeah, there can be other reason or more valid reason. Just wanted to mention. Since Krishna is the Supreme Father, his affection for the living entity is eternal. When the living entity falls down into the material world, the Supreme Lord, through his Swamsha, Paramatma, keeps company with the living entity. So when the living entity is coming, he's not just sending, no, he is also giving company. Uh, as Paramatma, he also goes. In this way, the living entity may someday return home, back to Godhead. By misusing his independence, the living entity falls down from the service of the Lord and take a position in the material world as an enjoyer. So it's very dangerous. We want to enjoy. This is quite dangerous, very risky, because it makes us to struggle more. Yeah, because we think that hey, enjoyment is after all. What is that? What is Anando Maya Abhyasat? That is our nature to be Anand. But we don't know how to be really happy. That's why we think becoming enjoyer we can be happy. That false notion is already costing us. And that's why what is happening in this way, the living entity selects a body out of 84 million forms and tries to satisfy himself by various variety of material enjoyment. The super soul, however, does not like him to do this. Consequently, the super soul instructs him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord then takes charge of living entity. But unless the living entity is uncontaminated by material desires, he cannot surrender to the Supreme Lord. So this means, okay, the purport goes further, but Prabhupada uses this purport also to explain that Darwin theory. Yesterday, didn't we discuss about Darwin uh, in the Prabhupada Leelamrit? Or was it I reading somewhere? Anyone? Adirasa Prabhu, Satish Prabhu? Hmm? Yeah, this means that all the species or forms of life are simultaneously created. Darwin's theory stating that no human being existed from beginning but human evolved after many years is simply a nonsensical theory. From Vedic literature, we can find that the first creature within the universe is Lord Brahma. Being the most intelligent personality, Lord Brahma could take charge of creating all the variety found within this material world. So this is what happened. Anyway, then he starts, this Brahman is saying, my dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manas lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. This is what Paramatma is telling. He comes in the form of spiritual master, he tells, and afterwards also, if one becomes serious in serving the spiritual master, in the form of Chaitya Guru, he inspires that, hey, now let's get serious. Uh, how he's saying, my dear friend, you are now you're my same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic. And not seeing me, you have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. This material world is created by whom? Uh, by the external energy of the Lord. We know that sometimes we call this external energy as Prakriti, feminine. This is what he says. This material world is composed of material elements, ingredients supplied by Mahat Tattva. The material world created by this external energy becomes the so-called home of conditional souls. So sometimes he's traveled to higher species, sometimes he's going to lower species. He has been wandering within this material universe since time immemorial. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Beej. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we have been going all and all and roaming around, but who is really fortunate? But he is fortunate when he once again meets his friend, either in person or through his representative. Actually, it is Krishna who personally advises all living entities to return home. Sometimes Krishna sends his representative, uh, who delivering Krishna's very message, canvasses all living entities to return home. Unfortunately, the living entity is so greatly attached to material enjoyment that he does not take instructions of Krishna or his representative very seriously. The word Mahim means within this material world. All living entities within this material world are sensually inclined. Consequently, they become entangled in different types of bodies and suffer. In this city, he's saying there are five gardens, nine gates, one protector, three living apartments, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stories, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is lord of the house. So this is what the Brahman is telling, and allegorically, what Narad Muni is saying is that there are these 5 gardens, 5 sense objects, 9 gates are 9 openings of the body, 1 guard who is the life air, 3 apartments, earth, water, and fire, 6 families, 5 knowledge senses and mind, 5 stories, 5 action senses, karmendriyas, 5 powers of state, 5 gross elements, 1 mistress. Who is that owner? Um, Mistress is intelligence, Puranjani. I mean, when Puranjan was the king, his wife was intelligence, uh, Avigyati at that time. And who is the master? The Jiva. Uh, this is what uh, and next verses, few verses, Prabhupada, this Brahman is going to tell. So here is saying, my dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your metal contaminations, you are placed in various miserable conditions. If one takes shelter of Supreme Person of Godhead, however, he can be elevated to the highest perfection, even though he be low born. One acquires low birth when one's spiritual intelligence is reduced. So, in the purport, there is also mentioned about how this in scriptures, yeah, assume birth. I'm just finding it. How that Mahabharata is spoken for whom? For women and Shudras. Uh, and in that connection, it is mentioned that for simple common man to understand, Mahabharata was written. Then the point there is that, okay, when one develops higher consciousness, I think it comes in one of the purports that one acquires a higher birth. If one takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, however, he can be elevated to highest perfection, even though he is low born. One acquires lower births when one's spiritual intelligence is reduced. I'm just trying to find. Okay, yeah, this is various bodies are developed within the with the material ingredients because of different types of sinful activities. King Puranjan assumed the body of a woman, Vaidarbi, as a result of his sinful activities. No? And otherwise, when the spiritual intelligence is elevated, then he attains highest perfection. Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man, Malay Dhwaja, your well-wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You were simply captivated in this body of 9 gates. Because of that, you are thinking that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Miche Mayara Vase, Yachi Bheshe, Kacha Habu Dubu Bhai, Jiva Krishna Das, E Vishwas Karle, Ta Ar Dukha Nai. If you simply catch hold of Krishna and take shelter of his lotus feet, you will once again get free from all miserable conditions. So, that's why society, friendship, love, and well-wishes are all simply results of being packed in different bodies. One should know this well and try to get out of this bodily engagement into which one is thrown birth after birth. Sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, sometimes a neutral eunuch. This is all because of the body which is created by the illusory energy. This illusory energy is my potency, and actually both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identities. Now just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position. And of course, this Brahman, who is none other than the Paramatma, he is telling to the Jiva that, my dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me. Hmm? And yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada gives about Buddhistic philosophy, Mayavad philosophy, but we, I mean, we can go a little faster. Maybe you can read it later. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and not different. This analogy is very nice. Please carefully follow. Uh, a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself. Yeah. When you see yourself in the face, you see that, hey, okay, it's me. Yeah, you're not thinking, hey, there is another person. It's not like a lion who is seeing in the water thinking, hey, there is another lion. No, we have intelligence to know that, hey, it is a reflection of my own self. Whereas others actually see two bodies. Hmm. Isn't it? For others, he's seeing two bodies. Why? First of all, he's seeing you, real you, and he's also seeing the reflection of you. He's seeing two persons. For him, he's seeing two. But when you see, you're not seeing your own physical body, right? You're only seeing a reflection of that in the mirror. So for you, you can really identify it is yourself, only one person, in which the living entity is affected and yet not affected. There is difference between God and let me repeat the translation. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and not different, whereas others actually see two bodies, so in our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and the living entity. So there is a difference between God and living entity. And the other example in the purport Prabhupada gives is like sun. The sun, those in ignorance, however, when the sun is reflected in a pot of water, the sun knows that there is no difference between himself and the reflected sun in the water. So for the sun, there is no question. He has clarity. Those in ignorance, however, perceive that there are many small suns reflected in each and every pot. As far as the brilliance is concerned, there is brilliance both in the original sun and in the reflection. But the reflections are small, whereas the original sun is very large. So this helps us to understand Vaishnava philosophy. What is that? Vaishnava philosophers conclude that living entity is simply a small sample of the original Supreme Person of Godhead. Qualitatively, the God and the living entities are one, but quantitatively, the living entities are small fragments of the Supreme Person of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is full, powerful, and opulent. In the previous verse, the Lord says, my dear friend, you and I are not different. This non-difference refers to qualitative oneness, for it was not necessary for Paramatma to remind the conditioned soul that he is not one in quantity. And then there is further emphasis on the same subject, where, however, there is no difference between the body and the soul. This is he identifies himself with the body. For the Supreme Person of God, however, there is no difference between body and soul. There is lipta and alipta. Let me go a little carefully. Otherwise, we miss the complete essence here. So here is saying, this non-difference, when Krishna is saying, or when the Brahman is saying that I and you are same, this uh, this non-difference refers to qualitative oneness, for it was not necessary for Paramatma to tell, hey, we are quantitatively different. The self-realized soul never thinks that he and the Supreme Lord are one in every respect, although he and the Supreme Lord are one in quality. The living entity is prone to forget his spiritual identity, whereas the Supreme Lord never forgets. This is the difference between Lipta and Alipta. The Supreme Lord is eternally Alipta, uncontaminated by the external energy, whereas the conditioned soul, however, being in contact with the material nature, forgets his real identity. Therefore, when he sees himself in the conditioned state, he identifies himself with the body. For the Supreme Lord, he doesn't. That's why when the Lord is appearing as Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna or Buddha or Vamanadev, there is no difference between the body and soul. They are eternal, transcendental, spiritual, fully potent, fully transcendental. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 13.3. Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu Bharata. O Sian of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies. There is further. There is also other example to help us understand this. In the third canto Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is said, fire has different features. There is flame, the sparks, and the smoke, right? Although these are one in quality, there is still a difference between the fire, the flame, the spark, and the smoke. The living entity becomes conditioned, but the Supreme Person of Godhead is different because he does not become conditioned at any point. In the Vedas, it is stated, Atma Tatha Pratag Drishta Bhagavan Brahma Samyita. Atma is the individual soul as well as the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is the seer of everything. Although both are spirit, there is always difference. In Smriti, it is also said, Yathagne Shudra Vishpulinga Vicharanti, just as sparks manifest in large fire. Similarly, the small individual souls are present in the big spiritual flame. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, Matstani sarva bhutani matchaham teshva avastita. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Although all living beings are resting in him as small fiery sparks rest on a large flame, both are differently situated. Similarly, in Vishnu Puran, it is said, Ekadesha stita syagner jyosna vistharini yatha parasya brahmana shaktis tathedam akhilam jagat. Fire is situated in one place, but it distributes heat and light. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is distributing his energies in different ways. The energy and energetic are one in one sense, but they are differently situated as energy and energetic. Similarly, Satchit Ananda form confirmed in Brahma Samhita is different from that of the living entity in both his conditioned and liberated states. I think, yeah. So my assumption or speculation is validated here, where we see Prabhupada writes, what is he saying? The Satchit Anand form confirmed in Brahma Samhita is different from that of the living entity in both conditioned and liberated state. Only atheists consider the living entity and the personality of Godhead equal in all respects. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash. If one follows the instructions of Mayavad, philosophers believe that Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living soul are one. His understanding of real philosophy is forever doomed. So in this way, now the Brahman is saying in this way, both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. Hamso Hamsena Pratibodhita. This is very important. When these both swans are there, not both are same level. It is not that, hey, okay, then me and God are same, so I am God. No, the Hamso Hamsena Pratibodhita means there is one individual soul which is Pratibodha, who is instructing, and the other one is actually hearing. One swan is superior and is instructor of the other. When the inferior swan is separated from the other swan, he is attracted to material enjoyment. This is cause of his fall down. When he hears the instructions of the other swan, he understands his real position and is again revived to his original consciousness. He also gives his sublime instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord is coming and giving Bhagavad Gita teachings also in one way or the other to bring back the fallen soul back to Godhead. Thus, one has to select a bona fide spiritual master and become enlightened to his original consciousness. In this way, the individual soul can understand that he is always subordinate to the super soul. The word tat vyapicharine is also significant, for it indicates that when one is separated from God due to his disobedience, his real sense is lost. I don't know. Yeah, we can see it coming origin from Sanskrit. We see also if someone is not chaste, then that lady is called Vyabhichari, or the action of non-marital uh, dealings are called Vyabhicharya. So, which means what is not right. What is it here used? The term Tad Vyabhicharini is also, for it indicates that when one is separated from the God due to disobedience, when we are not following the right thing, then that is called here Tad Vyabhicharine. His real sense is lost. Again, by the grace of Krishna and Guru, he can be properly situated in his liberated position. These verses are spoken by Srila Narad Muni, and his purpose in speaking them is to revive our consciousness. That is the state. Although the living entity and super soul are one in quality, the individual soul has to pursue the instruction of the spiritual master, then he can get liberation. Whereas Paramatma is eternally liberated, he is always liberated. So now the last and important verse of this chapter is Barhishman etad adhyatmam parokshena, parokshena pradarsitam yat paroksha priya devo bhagavan vishva bhavana. What is he saying? My dear King, Narad Muni is saying, my dear King Prachina Barhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Yeah? Yet Paroksha Priya Devo. Paroksha Priya. Paroksha means Pratyaksha means direct, Paroksha means indirect. Paroksha Priya means the Lord wants to be addressed, known indirectly. That's why we see Lord is so happy. Of course, Lord has so many names, so many deeds he has done. Lord has so many names. He wanted to be called as Arjuna Sakha. He wanted to, who is Arjun Sakha? None other than Krishna. In that way, he wanted to be addressed or known. Um, and it's also, yeah, Prabhupada writes in the purport, it's also logical. When we do not understand the Lord as He is directly, so actually, it is an instruct. So let me finish what Narad Muni says. So, yat paroksha priya devo Bhagavan Vishwa Bhavana. Vishwa Bhavana means the cause of all causes. Bhagavan, who is the cause of all causes, he likes to be known indirectly through his indirect descriptions. This is what, and that's why Narad Muni is saying, I have spoken to you all this. Actually, what is the purpose? What is that purpose? Barhishman, Prachina Parishat, Etat Adhyatma is saying, actually, it is an instruction for what? Self-realization. And purport Prabhupada that there are many similar stories in Puranas for self-realization. As stated in the Vedas, Paroksha Priya Iva Hi Deva. There are many stories in Puranas that are intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects. But actually, these refer to real facts. These are real facts. They are not to be considered stories without a transcendental purpose. We shouldn't see all these things like that. Some of them refer to real historical facts. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Sometimes people may ask all questions out of the story hey, I don't understand why that. When we focus on the main purpose, the real purport of the story should be focused. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. If someone is saying Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna has this form, Krishna has done that, Krishna. So one may not appreciate, one may think, oh, it's so great, or may not understand. But if the same, how great he is, If Krishna is so great, how to say he's supreme? If we can refer through Puranas, stories, like for example, how great is Krishna that he has accepted the humble position of being a charioteer of Arjuna in Kurukshetra Yuddha. Then we see, oh, so great. Yeah. And how great he is that uh, he has lifted Govardhan. Why did he lift? There is so much. So through these stories, hmm, uh, actually the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of the Lord. But those who are not interested in hearing directly about the activities of the Lord, or who cannot understand them, can very effectively hear such stories and fables, as this one narrated by Narad Muni. So what is happening? If one may not appreciate Krishna because of envy, can Lord be so much? Oh no. No, one has to be brought to appreciate the Lord. For that, yeah, Narad Muni has come up with this nice allegorical story, which is not. I I don't know. I have not read complete Bhagavatam, um, uh, but I see. Uh, this is first time I have come across. Um, uh, no, there are also other. But here we can see that Narad Muni is using indirect means, to help us understand this very, very vividly. Mm. But ultimately, for what? He concludes saying that actually it is an instruction for self-realization. So if we take it, um, the story as a story, it may not give us uh, much, except may bewilder us with so many analogies that are provided in all these chapters. But I mean, I think in the 65th text, there is a whole list of all allegories that are mentioned. The following in the purport, the following is a glossary of some of the important words in this chapter. Adeshakari, the actions resulting from sinful acts. Agatsya, mind. Amatya, the governor. Uh, Arbudha means various types of Shravana and Kirtana. So all these things are there, but it becomes only a subject, right? Like if you go to a college, theoretical, oh, it's all philosophy and analogy, and oh, there is also a storyline behind it, like a um, um, which we can relate. No, but what is the ultimate goal is to understand, yes, this is in fact the reality also. And when we understand the reality, what is our position, then what should we do? We make use of these. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you for joining. Again, a huge emphasis on need of spiritual master is there. That's very, very important. That we can't just keep delaying this, because that should be our top priority. Any comments or questions someone have? Too much info to digest.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. And as you rightly said, yes, Prabhuji, it was like philosophical things packed, Prabhuji. But if you have to take a some summary from this, Prabhuji, is it like Krishna is always a spiritual master? Well, first of all, the spiritual master instructions is critical, and Krishna himself will manifest, to elevate us when we are fallen, and you know. So yeah, so are these the key messages, or I don't know if I understood it wrongly, Prabhuji, from this?
First one is that we can appreciate from this, how did we fall down? Yeah, because when we know
Yes.
what caused us to be fallen, we know, okay, we don't make that mistake. Yeah. So the role of spiritual master is definitely there. Otherwise, we can always think that we don't even know that we have fallen down. Understanding our position itself to be the enjoyer. I think everyone is working hard to be enjoyers, right? Masters. Even devotee, as a devotee, we didn't know that, okay, after all, we may think, hey, I'm enjoying bhakti. So, as a servant or as a master, again, can help us understand. So, in that way, when one becomes serious, then he approaches a guru, and approaching guru means following his instructions. Following his instructions, one can serve him as a life and soul, taking his instructions. That pleases Krishna, and then he comes, he helps us as Paramatma to get more and more clear in the subject matter, and uh, help us associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by following the teachings or instructions, uh, or by practicing bhakti, whatever the instructions that Guru gives, and make our life successful. If I would like to kind of summarize this part, I don't know if you asked that to cross check.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. That was helpful. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, part Prabhu.
Prabhuji, in the beginning you said the Vafu and Vani, there are two kind of service we can do for our Guru. Vafu is the physical service, and Vani is the service towards his lectures and other maybe his things. I could not understand what exactly this Vani Seva is, and which is more potent, Vafu Seva and Vani Seva. Can you please just explain?
So Vapu Seva is service that we render to the spiritual master when he's, yeah, definitely is present on the planet, and one can render physical service. One could be like cooking for him, um, yeah, driving him to various places, arranging his, yeah, facilities, whatever we can for his bodily service. That can also be how can we arrange a comfortable, yeah, asana. Right? It can also be as simple as that. How can we arrange? Maybe bring some water for him, for example, when the katha is going on. So all these things which one can physically render, yeah, when one can see him and one can offer services. This is Vapu. Vapu Seva, where I was also including few other things. Yeah, Vapu Seva, yeah, yeah. If I am booking a ticket, I'm not. I might think that, oh, I'm not physically touching him or physically serving him. No, that also belongs to Vapu also, because you are not just booking any kind of ticket, but you are booking a nice ticket, not any kind of a seat, but a seat with a reservation, for example. Yeah. So you're taking care of the physical bodily needs, comforts of the spiritual master. That's where I said. And coming to Vani, Vani is actually what the spiritual master has spoken. So this is nothing the instructions. So when one is following the instructions, that is Vani Seva.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, the question is which is potent. Yeah, Vapu Seva is definitely potent. But because of the humble position of the gurus, they would always say, hey, rather, I will be pleased if you are serving um, the instructions, because these are the instructions I am getting from my spiritual master and his spiritual master. So there is whole Vani parampara that is coming. Yeah. So they see that, okay, the benefit of Vani Seva is not only that the instructions when I am there, you can follow the instructions. Even after I am not there, you can still follow. So the spiritual master is seeing the value that one can gain by following the Vani Seva. That, for example, Prabhupada has established the whole movement, right, based on what his guru has said in a couple of meetings. And we can also see so many disciples of Prabhupada. They even some they didn't even see at least once Srila Prabhupada. What to talk about really serving the physical body.
Okay.
So yeah, to your question, which is potent, I think yeah, as long as when we have the Vapu, we should definitely see what we can do. We can't just say, hey, Vani is the most powerful, let's focus on that. Out of humility, the spiritual master would say, hey, don't look about my comforts. Yeah, but it is their urgency. They see that, okay, let's transform the world. But as a loving disciples, one should understand what we can do also. And of course, if there are already some who are taking care of the bodily, we don't have to compete and say, hey, I will also take care. There is always this demand, right? When something is better than other, when we say Vapu Seva is so nice, so everyone will start saying, hey, I want to become a servant. I want to serve Maharaj personally. I want to do that personally. I want to. So, yeah, if it shouldn't become inconvenient for the guru. Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, that's what.
So that's why we shouldn't. There is I remember one old where the guru. The disciples wanted to serve the guru. It's also Vapu Seva. They wanted to please the guru by massaging the feet. And then there are two disciples who are fighting. I want to serve, and then they distribute. Okay, left leg yours, right leg mine. I am serving better than you. You know what happens? I think I don't know. Maybe you might also come across that. They start fighting. They're saying, "Hey, your leg is that. My leg is this." They start thinking it is my leg. In the end, whose legs are they?
It's Guru's leg.
Hmm. So we have to be careful. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yeah, what Rupa is mentioning also that, yeah, often we hear that, yeah, spiritual masters refer that Vani Seva is also, yeah, is very important. Or, yeah, equal to Vapu Seva. Yeah, so I don't know if we really want to say what is what, but if we see that definitely one can render Vani Seva.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
And yeah, when opportunity is there for Vapu Seva, then one is also careful to please. Ultimately, all these sevas are for what? For pleasing the spiritual master.
Spiritual master. Yeah.
If you do it in the right spirit, then we can please the spiritual master. And does it really matter whether if the spiritual master is pleased? Anyway, I mean, it can go also further. One can say that one should be very, very careful to maintain certain distance with the spiritual master. Otherwise, one might take him casual. One may become, when we think that, hey, he is also having, yeah, challenges like any other common man. He is also suffering. He also has toothache. He also has headache. He also, so one may think that, hey, he is also common. Yeah. So to do Vapu Seva also is not so easy. So one should also be very careful. While one does, one maintains certain distance. When we say distance, it's not like physical distance. It's also to understand that, yeah, okay. If just in this particular chapter we heard about two swans, right? Two swans are though living together, but they are very far away. So we should also understand that spiritual master is uh, far above us. though he's physically present just here. So all this one should be aware, so that when one engages in Vapu Seva, he needs to know what to do. When one engages in Vani Seva, he should also be careful that he don't create, manipulate, contaminate the instructions of the Guru. Everyone says that Prabhupada said, one should be very careful what Prabhupada really said or not said. So there are these things one should be careful when we are rendering service to the spiritual master. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it answered your question.
Yeah, it could answer as certain level. I mean, I was also thinking like sometimes these disciples are not physically always available to the Maharaj, to his
Mhm.
they are residing in a different place. So
Mhm.
Papu Seva is always not possible. I mean, all of course, like what you said, like just like booking a ticket, for
I
example,
think last week,
something like that.
last before week, we said when the spiritual master decides to end when he wants to come to this end phase of life, right? Where he has established everything, like Prabhupada has established everything, and then he wants just to be absorbed in hearing Bhagavatam, Kirtan, yeah. So he may go to a solitary place. I mean, I'm not telling about Prabhupada, but a guru may go to solitary place. Then it is said that his disciples will have to carry forward what he has established. And few advanced devotees should go with the spiritual master so that they can render the Vapu Seva as long as the physical body is present.
Yes, Prabhuji. So we have to become that advanced devotee. Then only, I mean, we should be in a position
It-
to.
Yeah, if you, yeah, but again, such advanced devotees may go, but then they also have to know that um, they do not fall down.
Yes, of course.
Advanced devotees also, because the senses are so strong that when you go to a different place, the focus should be to serve Guru. Solitary places are always place of danger. That's why it's not place for everyone. One have to become advanced and also have to maintain. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it could answer.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Other thoughts? No. Then thank you very much for joining. पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। गुरुन्द्र श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंद। हरे कृष्ण।